All of that dust also helps fertilize the Atlantic Ocean, as far away as Florida and the Amazon. The 2008 Atlantic hurricane season was the fourth most active and second most destructive on record, with a total of 17 storms. Yet a whole different kind of weather dynamo was getting ready to shatter its own records, generating well over 100 storms in a single day. February 5th, 2008. Across the United States, 131 separate tornadoes touched down.
There goes, look at the house! Oh my God!
57 people were killed.
Is there anybody else in there with you?
In the most destructive outbreak of tornadoes that the U.S. had seen in nearly 20 years.
Oh, there's the roof! Roof! Oh my Jesus, Lord!
But the horrific storms that day gave scientists a chance to test a brand new theory. Researchers have found an extraordinary new link in explaining how a thunderstorm can quickly spin into a tornado. The gravity wave. Throw a pebble into a pond and waves, gravity waves, ripple out. The same thing happens in the atmosphere when something disturbs the air up or down, or side to side. The motion of these gravity waves can put the squeeze on a rotating thunderstorm, compressing it and causing it to spin faster. Scientists believe that by tracking these waves, they can eventually pinpoint when thunderstorms are likely to turn into a deadly twister. 2008 was a year in which we moved closer to understanding how to predict the violent moods of Mother Earth on both land and in the skies. But the oceans would reveal a resilience that no one could have predicted. A discovery in the calm waters of the South Pacific, where once there was utter calamity. This idyllic refuge is known as Bikini Atoll, part of the Marshall Islands. An atoll is a ring of ancient coral reefs that are left behind when an island sinks back into the ocean. The process can take as long as 30 million years, and coral reefs are home to a quarter of the plants and animals in the world's oceans. The name Bikini brings to mind two eye-popping visions.
Wake up, men. It's 1948. Here's the latest product of 50 years of evolution in fashion and form.
The bikini swimsuit. And ground zero of a series of 23 nuclear bomb tests in the 1940s and 50s.
Operation Crossroads has begun. Bombardier's supreme test is at hand as the bomb bay doors open.
The tests assured a nation at war that its terrible new weapons worked. But the knowledge came at a great cost. There seemed little hope that the beautiful ecosystem would ever recover. For over half a century, few dared to visit the former bomb site. But in 2008, scientists decided to examine the reef in the first ever study on coral diversity since the atomic test ended. What they found was staggering and splendid. Not only had the corals returned, they were thriving, even growing from some of the ships sunk during the atomic tests. While some of the original species were still unaccounted for, 70% of the native coral species have resettled the lagoon.
What's so impressive to me about this coral reef and fish just bouncing back is really two very powerful lessons. The first is that nature is resilient. If you leave it alone, it can come back. But the other important thing about this is that not all the atolls in that chain were actually bombed. There was one that was relatively left intact. And it's from this one atoll that all that seed stock, all that life then sprang back into Bikini.
Healthy species caught a ride on strong winds and currents and drifted into the once devastated area. This is good news when more and more of the world's corals are turning white, bleaching because their colorful algae are dying.
Corals could be considered as a canary of the ocean in the same way that the canary in a coal mine is this indicator that there's trouble coming.
The canaries may be forewarning us about global warming, acidic oceans, and pollution. But we can't be certain. We simply know too little about the floors of our ocean. The last frontier on Earth. While scientists were heartened by the discoveries in the liquid oceans of the world, they worried endlessly about their frozen counterpart in the north, the Arctic ice cap. In 2008, it was predicted that the Arctic ice would retreat further than it ever has before, and that we might have an ice-free North Pole. The ice did not retreat as far as some worried, but a closer analysis revealed something equally alarming. The volume of ice did reach its lowest point in recorded history.
The really thick old ice at the moment is being washed out of the Arctic. A lot of that is disappearing, a lot of that is being pushed out into the Atlantic. There's a number of different reasons for that. Some of them are natural, but if you've got more and more thinner ice, so you've got a greater extent of thinner ice, then that ice is more likely to melt the following year, and so that's why we're getting this shrimping ice cap.
And the ice melted in such a way that, for the first time ever, the North Pole could be completely circumnavigated. New research last year also revealed that the thawing tundra might yield an even more volatile harvest. Scientists call it the carbon bomb.
Permafrost is basically frozen vegetation that hasn't decomposed and so hasn't released its carbon back out into the atmosphere. When that starts to melt, as undoubtedly it will with global warming, it's a massive store that could just be unleashed into the atmosphere.
Locked inside the eons-old permafrost is more carbon dioxide than already exists in the atmosphere. As it warms, the frozen ground could release an avalanche of the greenhouse gases, fast-forwarding us to the worst-case climate scenarios, where drought and wildfires intensify. Sea levels rise dramatically. Storms and flooding overwhelm coastal cities, wreaking havoc all around the globe. Even now, temperatures in the Arctic are rising at twice the global average. And as the climate warms here, the effects will be felt all over the globe, potentially exacerbating a crisis with our world's creatures. Hundreds of thousands of plants and animals worldwide are already threatened by overhunting, deforestation, and the encroachment by humans on their natural habitat. Now, a new study released in October of 2000